Welcome back to Bunk Up Basics, where we answer completely fake questions from the eye, but pretend they're real for the sake of content. None of this medical, dental, vision, legal, financial, veterinary, or any advice about anything. Do your own research, dummies! Oh, look at a band of bunker! Let's go! Oh, yeah! Found a bunker deep in the wall. Open up your cans. It's time for Bunker Basics. Let's go! We're gonna answer fake questions. Let's go! So get your drinks and sandwiches. Let's go! Now let's hear it for the host, Chance Paladin.
We're on a roll here, and I'm having a lot of fun with these, so we're going to do another one. This one's top 10 camping stuff. Hey, all you seasoned campers, bushcraft pros, and outdoor experts. I'm a total newbie who figures that learning camping skills is a fun, low-pressure way to practice living without modern conveniences, but I've never slept outside beyond a backpack tent as a kid. Help this clueless beginner out with the basics. Question 1. I have situation. I've never camped in my life, and I'm worried about freezing or getting soaked on my very first trip. What is the absolute most important piece of gear a total beginner should invest in first? Tent, sleeping bag, or something else. Tent, terrified Tim. Wow, if you've never camped in your life. What's the most important piece of gear? A friend that knows what they're doing, hopefully. I mean, shelter, but water, I guess. But if you're worried about freezing or getting soaked, I'm going to assume hopefully you have water with you. You're going to get, if you're here in the Pacific Northwest anyway, you're going to get soaked. Having a change of clothes that's actually dry, and then having a way of also drying out your clothes, assume you're not going to be able to get a fire going. The funny thing, I forgot, I didn't talk about this in my off-grid one, but one of the many things that my Goal Zero 500X could run was like boot dryers. And even though my friend got mad at me because the boot dryers kind of sucked, he said it would take forever. Yeah, but if it's like dark for 14 hours, you're not going to be walking around anyway. You've got 14 hours to run some really kind of like low energy boot dryers off DC. I would say if you already have a tent or some kind of poncho or some kind of tarp or something, and you only have one pair of boots, but you've got tons of socks with you, you have got to find a way of drying your boots out. Your camping trip can be ruined so fast. In the cold and the wet, like your boots can mold and rot really, really fast. You can scotch or whatever you can spray them down with waterproofing as much as you want. You can put 3 coats on there. You could let it soak into every seam. And it's just not going to matter in the Pacific Northwest. And even though, yes, I know my boot dryers were super inefficient, But like if you've got 2 pairs of boots, which is if it's really, 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 really wet, you bring 2 pairs of boots. You can be drying your first pair while wearing your second pair. Yeah, so if you already have some kind of a tent and some way of sleeping under some kind of shelter, I would say a boot dryer, or you're just not going to make it. Your feet, besides water and everything, like your feet, trust me, just trust me, terrified Tim. Also, there's a lot of other things too, like knowing which season it is. But I've slept in the winter before with just, a normal Coleman dome tent. As long as it keeps the water off you, you can have like just wool blankets. There's people that go up into the mountains with like a wool blanket and you can make it work. So even if it was just like a wool blanket and a poncho, or like a wool blanket and a tarp, like you can still make it work. And some paracord, I guess. But take a buddy. Question 2. Actually, there's people that just take a hammock and then string it between 2 trees. If you can find 2 trees, then the hammock does kind of a little wraparound thing into like a little cocoon. I don't know. Like people have all kinds of crazy ways they like to do it. And then some people, like, it just hurts them too much to sleep in a hammock. Some people just bring a cot and a tarp, or a cot and a poncho. Yeah. Question 2. I have situation. I want to start with car camping, but I have no idea how to pick a spot that's safe and legal without getting kicked out. How does a complete newbie find good beginner-friendly campsites without booking months in advance? Site-seeking Sally. You don't, because every vantard on the planet and every homeless on the planet has ruined this. So even in a lot of places like boondocking, even if you have permission on someone's private property, is going to get you in trouble now, which is just insane. So a lot of people, check out Camping with Steve. Stealth camping is what a lot of people for car camping have had to do. And it's tough. Like, you got to get in late, you got to be out early, you got to have, some kind of camera's observation system. You got to keep like a super low profile, because everybody's doing that now. And as the homeless crisis gets worse and as the vantards get worse, you got to get smarter and smarter and smarter about it. The websites that have all the official ones, they are booked out months in advance. So it's tough. All of the websites that have all of those are all very heavily picked over. So you can try some of the Airbnb ones that are just Airbnb camping spots, but you still have to have a lot of security mindedness. There's all these gals, it's like 120-pound gal, in a van or a car by herself. Especially like they're always like filming where they are and stuff. Like they're prime targets. So you have to be super smart about it. You have to have multiple ways of defending yourself. And if you're at any of the popular spots, like, people are going to know. And you have flock cameras now that have almost no security at all on them, and anyone can find anyone everywhere. And if they have your license plate, they can find exactly where you've been camping. It's a mess. Like, car camping is super risky. You got to be really smart about it. Question 3. I have situation. Everyone talks about building fires, but I've only ever used a gas grill, and I'm scared of starting a forest fire. Me too. What is the safest and easiest way for a total beginner to learn fire starting without burning down the woods? Flame-fearing Frank. That is me in a nutshell. As a kid, I never even thought about it. I mean, you practice, only you can prevent forest fires, and you practice it and stuff, but, like, you don't... It wasn't until I was an adult and saw forest fires over and over and over again. Even as a kid, I saw a forest fire, but mentally I was really disconnected from it. But then as an adult, I had a couple close calls because we had a really dry April. I mean, a bone dry summer of an April, which never happens. I mean, it was like, it may as well have been in the middle of August, but in April. And it was right on the edge enough, and then the wind kicked up. God, it still shakes me. It's one of those moments of my life that really shakes me. The wind kicked up at dusk, and it could have been really bad. It was right on the edge. I think we were okay, but I don't think so. I don't think we were okay. That's never happened to me in my life. And I get, my body gets sick just thinking about it. Usually when you drive through small towns, if you drive by the fire station, they have a little dial, and every fire station keeps their little dial going. And that's how you can check, because the weather people all consider their data proprietary, and going back and checking yesterday's weather is impossible. They're all on proprietary, like locked-in servers, proprietary servers. It's extremely frustrating, and so you can't tell how hot it was the day before, how cold it was the day before, what yesterday's precipitation was. You can kind of feel the grass. You can see if the grass is crinkly, because you can see kind of how much water is in the grass. You can try to trim the grass around the fire. But if you're in a hurry, or if you're with somebody that's in a hurry and you don't have time to prep it first, or the embers are going to float around, it's scary. It's so scary. A gas or a propane grill on low is the safest way. If you're going to learn fire starting brand new, learning when everything is soaking wet from somebody who knows the area, make sure you're not starting fires on top of roots. Again, back to the old Dakota fire pit stupidity. You dig down to make your Dakota fire pit, and there's a root right there. You could start a fire that lasts weeks or months. It's stupid. I'm back to being okay with starting fires, but I don't start them at dusk, and I make sure they're out before dusk, or at least low enough. Once you get past dusk, when the weather shifts, they tend to be okay again. Question 4. I have situation. I'm on a tight budget and see super cheap tents and gear on Amazon, but I don't want it to fall apart on night one. How can a newbie spot decent beginner camping gear that won't break the bank or break in the rain? Budget backpacker Bob. That's funny. I will say, usually, even a super, super cheap tent usually lasts one night. Even super, super, super expensive tents, if you haven't seasoned them yet, can be tricky on their first night, because canvas has to get wet and then contract. Cheaper tents, even like the super cheap, like China copy tents, the reason why I say they usually last one night is because they usually have just enough in them to last one night, and then try to squeak past the return window. But yeah, don't take it for granted just because you're getting a tent from Costco. It's going to be good. Now, walk by Costco returns sometimes. You'll see the piles of tents when it comes to camping season. Coleman, I'm looking at you. I don't think you can. I don't think a newbie can spot a cheap tent from an expensive tent. I'll tell you the one that I use, though. All right, Alps. The name of my preferred tent is called Alps. It's I think a 2-person, which is enough room for like one person in their bags. It has like an extra canopy that you can really bolt down that kind of makes a really nice air bubble. And I love that thing. I've camped in all 4 seasons with it. So spending the little extra on like a reputable tent appropriate for the weather you're going into is a really big difference. Like if you're going to go for like car camping, so you can have like a heavy duty, canvas, Kodiak with like a stove jack and bringing a stove and stuff. Like it just, you got to kind of know what you're going into. But I've camped all 4 seasons again in like a 6-man Coleman. But again, those were the old Colemans. Like the new ones, I can't tell you how many times it like does not last. Like those Colemans, all this cheap Chinesium tents, like just do not last. You can get them straight from Costco and it does not matter. Getting military surplus, or like, again, I talk about ODGG supply a lot. Military surplus tents. They have pop-up ones too. Like my brother really likes the pop-up ones. ODGG has had pop-up ones before too. Like, yeah, do your own research for your own area. If you're in a hotter area, you want it to have a lot more vents. If you're in a colder area, it needs to breathe out the top for condensation, but you've got to have another layer so you have, so you're air gapped. Because it's not really the rain that gets you, unless it's like sideways rain. It's going to be tons of moisture, not being able to dry out, not having enough ventilation to dry out. Condensation on the sides because you're not air gapped. Things like that. And then they're always going to rip and tear anyway, so bringing lots of extra equipment so you can fix all the rips and tears, and bring lots of paracord and duct tape and stuff. Budget backpacker Bob. Question 5. I have situation. I keep hearing leave no trace, but I have no clue what that actually means. What are top leave no trace rules every beginner camper needs to know to not be that guy? Trace leaving Larry. Oh, this is a hot one. A lot of people say, it means just bury your poop. But if you go look at the videos of, what's that big stupid mountain that everybody climbs? Everest? Like, the Everest base camps look like homeless camps now. And then I have a friend who does the Colorado, in the Grand Canyon and stuff. That whole place is just, there's people that just do nothing but make sure that doesn't turn into a mess. Like, you can't always just bury your poop, but that'll be like the little quick stupid hack that everybody says. It is so much more than that. It usually means packing everything in and packing everything out. That's just the bottom line. It also means staying on the certified trails. There can be, again, talking about stupid things to get massively fined for. switchbacks, which is like, you know, people kind of making their own trails and stuff. Dude, if you get caught doing that, you can get in so much trouble. Again, like littering, you know, I know everyone gets like pissed off about the rules and laws and stuff. And for the most part, common sense is common sense, but like there's a lot of people that don't have it. And I've got video evidence of people just flicking garbage just outside their windows, right outside my house, over and over and over. The truckers do it. The soccer moms do it. Just flick garbage. I have to go out there constantly, my wife and I, with the grabby claws and garbage bags. And it's not just, you know, garbage from the windstorms, like beer bottles, soda bottles, chip bags. They just flick their garbage out. Like, people are just disgusting animals. Like, we're one meal away from just full feral. And so they don't give a shit about our little patch of green. And when they go camping, they sure don't care about that either. You know, so when you have a fire, you know, dousing the fire out, you know, cleaning it up. It's, you know, not going off the trails, not pooping next to the river, things like, yeah, you know, if you are in a place where you can bury it, you know, burying it deep enough to where the critters and flies, yeah, it's just kind of like a whole deal. Yeah. Question 6. I have situation. Cooking over a campfire looks fun in videos, but I usually burn everything on a kitchen stove, which is the simplest way for a total beginner to cook good meals while camping without fancy equipment. Campfire cook Carla. Having a propane stove that's not garbage. Cooking over a campfire itself is kind of a whole deal. You have to not be cooking with garbage wood, you know, and having your garbage in the fire, first of all. And what we did is you have low or no flames and coals. And you're cooking with the heat, not the flames. It's kind of like barbecuing, honestly. But if you can't barbecue and if you can't cook anything, you're not going to be cooking anything over a campfire either. That's why most people just do hot dogs and toast the bun on a grill and just do hot dogs and buns. If you do meat patties, again, practice barbecuing, because it's basically, you're just basically barbecuing, but instead of briquettes, you're using wood. But you need to use good wood, not crap and garbage. That's just disgusting. But yeah, use pokey sticks and stuff if you don't have a grill. Just make sure, you know, the sticks are sanitized. Make sure they're good, strong sticks, and, you know, some kind of wood that's not going to poison you. Question 7. I have situation. Bugs and wildlife freak me out, especially bears or snakes showing up at night. How worried should a beginner actually be about animals, and what easy steps keep most critters away? Bear scared Brenda. You know, it's not just bears. We'll talk about bears, but mice and rats are a huge problem when you're camping. Having absolutely no food, zero food in your bag, don't even smell like food. You know, bear bags are a real thing. Mice, squirrels, blue jays, like yellow jackets if you're in the summertime, like everything is coming after you for miles in every direction. And normally I would say that like bears, black bears at least, aren't a big problem, but more and more lately black bears have been going psycho. And a brown bear or a grizzly is going to drag you off and do things that unconsensually that you're not going to like. And again, black bears can go feral and get you too, or drink all your beer in a worst case scenario, and then sleep in your car and you can't get them back out again. Keeping the number one thing is just keeping your food away from the camp, cooking away from your camp, having the smoke go down, having your camp like upwind from the smoke so your entire camp doesn't smell like food. And then getting rid of all of the food scraps and everything in a sanitary way. Because a mouse can cause just as much damage as a bear if a mouse gets in your bag. It's just absolutely disgusting. It's just the same as like a mouse getting in your preps. It's disgusting. Mice are just little assholes. They're impossible to keep out. So you got to keep food away. Crumbs. All of it. Period. Bear scared Brenda. Yeah. And then keeping some bear spray or a horn, something that you can honk at them, something that you can bear spray them with. Usually works, as long as they're not full-blown psychos. Then you're going to need like 44 mag. Or if they're mice, you can have like 410 like rat shot, snake shot. I have situation. I want to bring my spouse and kids, but they think camping is just suffering in the dirt. That's true. How can a newbie make a first family camping trip fun enough that everyone wants to go again? Family fun, Fred. Damn. The first thing is actually know what you're doing, so you don't just get your entire family killed or kidnapped by psychopaths, psycho hill people. Especially if you've got daughters, if you've got a wife and daughters, you've got to have some kind of bathroom thing figured out for them, some kind of latrine thing figured out for them that's safe for them psychologically and sanitarily. The gals, the girls, they like to feel clean. They like to be clean. And you've got to have, and if it's in the summer too, especially like potentially camping, some kind of a camping shower for the girls that, you know, your daughter's wife, sisters, that, you know, if your daughters, you know, their girlfriends, you gotta have a place for them. That's the number one thing. The number two thing, taking a girlfriend or a wife out and then making them cater for you the whole weekend and then babysit the kids the entire weekend while you F off. That is another huge mistake that I see. If you take a gal out camping or shooting, or camping and shooting, the experience has to equally be something for them, right? There has to be things for them to do, and especially if you're running around with a bunch of little bastards, there has to be something for them to do too, so they're not driving mom nuts, you know. And that might mean like you taking one on the chin, especially if you've got boys. So many like negative experiences, you know, the dad just like walks off and leaves the kids with the wife the whole weekend. And it's just like, what the hell, dude? What's wrong with you? Like, you don't get to just disappear the whole weekend and have your own like spiritual experience. That stuff is just going to just be an endless amount of frustration. And moms do it too, you know. My mom's idea of going on adventures was packing the car full of sandy, sand flea ridden driftwood and making us drive home up to up to our knees in driftwood for her. It's like, what the hell is your problem? When did parents just have like zero empathy? So if you're a guy, do the meal planning and prep and everything yourself. Figure out what they want to eat. Plan the meals out yourself. Plan on cooking everything yourself. Plan on taking one for the team so that your family has a good time. And if you're going to take them out shooting too, don't make shooting be the main thing. Have shooting be kind of like something that's optional, and if you get to it, you get to it, and if you don't get to it, they're having fun otherwise. For a kid, for us that meant coloring books, comic books, lots of books, Game Boy later. We had the Tiger LCD games, then Game Boy. And, you're going to want to get them off all that stuff. Your propensity is going to be to get them off. Enjoy the wild, enjoy the wilderness, enjoy this, enjoy that. Honestly, like being in the forest. You can, we had a Walkman out in the forest. I listened to music and watch movies out in the forest. Getting them to unplug from all that stuff is not necessarily always the win that you think it is. I think there's something crazy therapeutic about watching Terminator 3 in the middle of the forest. I think it's awesome. But sometimes I want the music off, but sometimes I want a little bit of music. I used to listen to the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly soundtrack just in the middle of the forest. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with phones. It can be nighttime, and then you use the phone to figure out which stars are which and all that stuff, and you need your phone to take lots of pictures and take lots of videos. But you can put all that stuff away, go on a hike, come back, get back into it all again. You can do both. We read a lot. We did coloring books a lot, and we tended to the fire and stuff. And sometimes Dad mowed, and then we all walked in the trails that he mowed together. And we shot, and we did fireworks, although I didn't like doing fireworks out there. So it's too scary. And now I don't like fireworks either, just like I don't like campfires. Yeah, but there's flying drones now. If your kids are into camera work, getting them a camera and just letting them take pictures of everything. Technology can make you got to have both. You got to have cool technology stuff to do. You got to have cool no battery stuff to do, like coloring books and books and stuff. If they're kids, there's lots of young adult books out there that they're going to have a blast reading and kind of getting them into the adventure. Hardy Boys and stuff gets the kids into the adventure-y spirit. And when your kids get older, getting them a knife and having them whittle things, and when they're bigger, getting them their first machete, and if there's a river, fishing with them in the river, collecting rocks. In some rivers there's fossilized rocks and stuff. There's a billion things to do, but bring a lot of stuff. And then still bring things like, a whistle that they keep with them, and things like that. Anyway. Family fun, Fred. And the latrine for the gals needs to be basically the very first thing you do, besides making sure there's no trail cameras poking at you. I have situation. I live in a 4 seasons area and don't want to limit camping to just summer. When and how should a beginner safely try cold weather or cold season camping without freezing? Chilly Camper Chris. Damn. These questions are so good. Don't start in the freezing ass cold. First of all, work your way up to it, and bring your own thermometer so you're kind of tracking what temperatures you're getting into. Camp when it's 50 degrees at night. Camp when it's 45 degrees at night. Camp when it's 40 degrees at night. Check what the weather is going to be so you know what temperature you're going into. And then continually make sure, again, like I wrote in Bunker Basics, once you get below 40, you're camping additionally for every single degree. Every single degree is a fight and a challenge for you to overcome. So you can insanely over prepare and go into much colder temperatures and hope for the best. But like I say again in Bunker Basics, the sleeping bag temperatures lie to you. There's a comfort level, and then there's a you're not going to die level. And a 20 degree bag only, that could mean 20 degrees and you're comfy, or it could mean 20 degrees and you're not going to die. Those are two very different things. You might not matter, but if you're bringing a gal, it's going to matter. Half of it's the sleeping bag, though, and half of it's the tent. Yeah. And always, always, always bring tons of extra Mylar. Because I cannot even tell you how many freaking camping trips I have saved. Not just for my wife, but for my brother and his wife. Just bringing tons of extra Mylar. You don't want to make that a normal thing. But like, Mylar emergency blankets kick ass, and they don't cost anything, and they fold up into the size of a freaking credit card, and you can bring tons of them. And again, don't plan on those for a long-term thing, but like those can save a camping trip. I've saved tons of camping trips with those stupid little Mylar blankets. Absolutely. Talk about like real hacks. Those Mylar blankets are like a real hack. Yeah. Question 10. I have situation. I see people doing multi-day backpacking trips and it looks amazing, but car camping feels like a logical start. How long should a total beginner stick with car camping before trying overnight backpacking? You can do both. You can car camp and then move a little bit further away from the car and a little bit further away from the car. And then have somebody drop you off, but know where you are. And then have someone drop you off and then check on you. You don't have to just do one and then immediately go to the other. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a neat. Yeah, it's a good question. So let's check out the bonus question. I have situation. A lot of camping advice online swings between you need $2,000 worth of ultralight gear or you'll hate it, and real camping means suffering with minimal stuff to prove you're tough, leaving beginners like me confused. Is the biggest camping myth that you have to go all in with expensive gear or hardcore minimalism right away, when actually starting simple and comfortable is the best way to fall in love with the outdoors and build skills gradually? Comfort versus hardcore camper colon. This is the big irony of camping and just off-grid in general. When you don't know what you're doing and you kind of don't know what you like and you kind of don't know what you want, you tend to overgear. And as you get better, you need less and less and less and less. It's kind of funny that way. And then you might end up just packing more water, which I think is what a lot of people do. And I don't blame them. I car camp because I like to bring 5 gallons of water with me and 2 camelbacks. I think, but you're not going hiking with that. But I'll go hiking with a full Camelback. I love water too much. But that's only part of the question. The part of the question is $2,000. $2,000 doesn't get you a lot of gear anymore. Again, check out ODGG for like the military stuff. The Rona drove the prices of all the Vantard bullshit BS and all the camping stuff, like doubled or tripled everything, and then you've got the tariffs. $2,000 doesn't get you a lot of camping gear anymore. So you've got to go back to Milsurp and very, 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 very carefully, cautiously go through the Milsurp side. You're not going to be the most comfortable person in the world. But also stop being a little bitch. Because most of what you're going to want, especially if you're trying to bring a gal and not have her leave you in the middle of the night or get abducted by hill people, she is the one that you want to spend the money on the sleeping bag and the mattress. Get her a nice blow up mattress or get her a nice cot. And so that's what we did with my wife. Got her a really nice cot. And several really nice sleeping bags. And I think I maybe told that story before. I forgot her sleeping bag. It was an insanely massive storm. The local hardware store just happened to have just the most amazing sleeping bag I've ever seen in my life, and she slept like a baby through this insanely horrible storm. The most miserable storm I've ever camped in my life. And she slept like a baby while I went outside and tried to keep the tent sealed up in the latrine area. And she still got soaked, I think, because the latrine area kind of had just way too much water from the downpour. Anyway, we solved that next time. In fact, Kodiak has made some really cool latrine kind of canopy options that bolt right onto the Kodiak tents to where you've got a fortress. Now, if we had to do it again, we would have a fortress. Kodiak has made multiple layers of bolted on extra canvas layer. Oh, it's amazing. Kodiak just kills it with their lineup. And there's some other ones too. That's what you spend your money on. Get yourself as minimalist as possible, military surplus to be able to survive. And then get your wife or girlfriend the nice stuff so that they're comfy. Now there's a third part to this question, which is ultralight gear. You need ultralight gear for backpacking. If you're doing 5-day backpacking trips and stuff, most people do not need ultralight gear. I have a light tent and I have a light sleeping bag, but that's also kind of what I like size wise for just me going camping by myself. That's for the me myself camping gear, right? That's not me taking somebody with me camping gear. Does that make sense? And again, what I'll say, unfortunately this doesn't get into it. I wanted to bring this up in the last episode about GPS stuff and talking about de-Googled phones and things. You've got it, and if you're relying on your phone for notes and stuff for all of this, and like recipes and things, and you're going to be and addresses and directions. You're going to want to make sure that you have some kind of notepad on your phone that is saving that info locally. I think Joplin, is it called? Oh, did my phone shut off again? I think Joplin is what I'm going to try to use. Again, like relying on SMS. So like if you're driving to your campground and lose GPS and lose cell, I forgot to bring this up last episode. I talked about SMS, not being able to get in your SMS and not being able to get in your Telegram. But a lot of people's notepads, like OneNote and stuff, like if you're not saving local copies, or if it forces you to check the internet before you can get back to your local copy, you might have everything that you ever need on your phone and just not be able to get to it. So I'm going to just try to open up like Joplin really quick. And yeah, you also need a way to charge your phone. A little battery bank, a little 10 watt. So watch my off-grid episode and watch my GPS episode, because both of those kind of funnel into the camping episode. This episode. Yeah. Matmo. Yeah, so Joplin has like a new note, and it just opens up a new note, and it can even, I guess, geolocate your notes. If you took different notes in different spots, and you can add a title and stuff, and you might think, why is that a big deal? Well, a lot of people like to read on their phone, but if you can't connect to the internet, there were e-readers. You go out camping and your e-reader can't connect to the internet, and so it won't handshake to like unlock all the books that you want to read. Or like, I'm an author and I want to read, like decide to proofread my books, and I couldn't. Or my laptop couldn't connect to the internet, so it couldn't sync with OneNote to decide to like open up my stuff, even though my stuff was saved locally, and I couldn't change my OneNote settings without connecting to the internet and having sync actively. Oh, it's just infuriating. So if you haven't practiced camping without a cell signal, you might be like, what's this have to do with anything? You're way off track. Because if you're, taking that special gal out camping, she might not be ready to just toss her phone away. Not just because like you want her to enjoy the outdoors or get in her bathing suit and start swimming around or whatever you guys like. If there's a lake or something, you want her to go do all the things so you guys can have fun, but you forget that she's a gal. She doesn't want to get murdered. She wants to check in with her family. If, maybe you two haven't been dating for a super long time, and so, her dad is going to come out and kill you with an axe if she doesn't check in every hour. Maybe she's got like a check-in with a secret code, and she has to tell a trusted person a secret code every hour to make sure you haven't, whisked her off in a shipping container or something. And so you might think I'm making all this up, but like, these are real considerations for gals, especially with how bad trafficking is. So having a Starlink Mini or some kind of Wi-Fi hotspot or something so she can check in with whoever her trusted individual is, so she can send them, GPS ping coordinates. All those things you know, maybe she wants just access to her books so she can read on her phone, and she can't because there's no GPS. I mean, there's no, you know, cell, you know. Those are, my point to all this is like, those are all things that build comfort. They build trust. They build confidence, because you're not just asking, you know, some gal, you know, she might not have a pistol of her own. She might only have like a thing of bear spray or a thing of pepper spray. And, you know, you're asking her to go out in the wilderness with you, and she really has no way of knowing if you really know your stuff or not. And there could be gals watching this too. I doubt it, but maybe some of you are gals but most of you probably are watching this already know all of this. But like, maybe your daughter's going out with a guy, and maybe you don't know that guy, and maybe the guy doesn't want, you know, a chaperone. I would say, you know, if you're a dad with a daughter and you don't trust your daughter to go out with a guy in the wilderness the first time, first of all, good on you. Second of all, a lot of guys, what they'll do before they let their daughter go camping with some dude, because you don't know if he's going to have, you know, 6 friends there, or God knows what's going to go on. You take the guy camping first without the daughter, and then you give him the talk and hold his head underwater until he agrees to behave himself. You know, otherwise it's going to be a one-way hunting trip. You know, there's kind of a lot of, there's a lot of different ways to handle that, kind of depending on where you are in your life and who you are. There's a lot of gals that are really comfortable camping that'll be even more comfortable than the guy. You know, there's gals out there that carry big machetes, and, you know, just look at the camping shows. Like, there's gals that really know their survival stuff too. But I would say more often than not, it's a guy overstating their camping abilities, bringing a gal out, and not actually being ready for things like a latrine or shower, watching for trail cameras, watching for all the signs that there might be people around, and you might actually need to bug out before some hills have eyes stuff happens. So anyway, I know I'm probably way more paranoid. I know I said I wouldn't use that word about camping stuff, but it's just because I know human nature, and things are getting worse. And there's a lot of stupid mushroom pickers out there, and there's a lot of stupid hunters out there. Those are both fine, but you don't know if you're going to run into cultists like one of the hold on, like Creekmore. I don't know if any of you guys watch his YouTube, but, you know, talking about running into cultists, or running into poachers. Yeah, so that's not to like scare people, but like, you should accept reality. And the reality is when you're out camping, you're on your own, literally, which means your own medical kit, your own, you know, 44 mag for the bigger stuff, and 9mm or 45 for the smaller and medium 2-legged stuff. Yeah, a hunting rifle or bolt action, you know, you're not going to potentially have time for a second shot if a bear's dissuading you if you run into a group of cultists. So we load for bear. We load for the whole meal deal every single time we go out. Basically, every time I go out, it's just like, what if the balloon goes up while we're out? So I bring everything, every time. All the way down to a crowbar, multiple machetes, you name it. You have no idea what you're going to run into. Even if you've camped there 100 times, you could go there and there could be an entire homeless camp of 100 homeless people. There could be meth heads cooking meth in RV. Like, this is not to scare you. It's, I would say the best thing of all is to know somebody that lives nearby, wherever you like to go camping, and say, hey, yeah, is everything still cool down there? Okay, you know, check on the roads. Like, are the roads still good? You know, are there more trees down? Like, bringing a chainsaw is like a must. I can't tell you how many times we went out and there was just like entire trees down and we weren't equipped yet to deal with it. And I was using too light of a machete and it could have just exploded in my face trying to chop this tree down. And, you know, my axe wasn't as sharp. My hatchet wasn't as sharp as it should have been. Like, because I didn't quite know how to sharpen things yet. Like, being self-reliant, even just going camping, especially here in the Pacific Northwest after these crazy storms, you could go camping in a storm and there could be 100 trees down. Like, you might survive, but there might be 100 trees down between you and the main road. Yeah, so that's not to scare you. It's just like, camping is serious stuff for just a million different reasons. And so none of this is to scare you. It's just like, if you're a man, you need to have modern defensive tools for the 2-leggeds and 4-leggeds. And you have to actually be planned and prepared to be the man. Okay? That means not being a little bitch. So, anyway, I have a few more of these planned, and so I hope you like this one, and I will talk to y'all later, and there's still time to prep, and don't buy expensive gear. Go to a milsurp place you trust, learn what proper milsurp prices are, watch for a lot of milsurp dropping at the same time. That drives the prices down. Check out ODGGLLC.com. ODGG Supply. If you're here in the Pacific Northwest, that's P&W Guerrilla. He's selling assault packs right now for like $30. Like actual like USMC. You can't beat that. If you try to buy those at like milsurp stores, they'll want like 50, 60, $70 for them. So anyway, that's it for this one. This one's really long, but like camping is just really, really near and dear to my heart. And I had to relearn everything. And then I had to reteach everything to my brother. And you're going to make mistakes and things aren't going to be perfect. But don't expect that everybody that you go out there with has your best intentions in mind. You know, they might think that there's a latrine, but a latrine, like, all of a sudden they go out there and just turn totally euphoric and you can't get them to help you build a latrine anymore. And you've got gals that have been on the road for hours. Or the gals start freezing and then they all want to get in the car and keep the damn car running, which is about enough to drive you insane. Anyway, and then their boots get wet, and then you don't have any way to dry their boots out. So, you don't have gloves for them. You see what I mean? Like, I don't know. Camping is just a whole deal. Anyway, yeah, we'll all make it through this together, and there's still time to prep. And talk to y'all later. Bye. I keep thinking of more and more things to say for this camping one. This camping one could be like 5 hours long. Bring lots of Pepto. This is just kind of this is just the thing for like all off-grid, all camping, all grid down. But, you know, if you're going to feed everybody chili, like if your idea is to feed everybody chili, which is probably the number one most common thing to eat when everybody goes out because it's affordable and filling, everybody's stomachs are just going to be wrecked. You need a ton of Pepto. You need tons of wipes. Everyone's going to have muddy tummies. You're going to need lots of wipes, lots of TP. Just like the whole latrine. If you have more than like two or three people, you know, plan on like 2 latrine spots, one for the guys and one for the gal. Yeah. Just like, I can't emphasize enough. Like every time I go camping, no matter what I eat, my stomach just turns to mud. Pepto helps a lot with that. Imodium might be like a little too much. Like anti-diarrheal might be a little too much, because then you're going to have potentially the opposite problem. But yeah, Pepto kind of helps balance a lot of that out. And also on that note, make sure everyone brings their meds. When we were kids and went to camp for school, we had somebody that was in charge of like knowing everybody's meds, knowing when everyone needed to take their meds, knowing what everybody was allergic to, including food and medicine and bees. And yeah. And also plans on, if someone's snoring really loud, what to do in those. Yeah, there's but like medicine, people get stuffy, people have allergies. Yeah, knowing what everybody's sensitive to, and especially the food, because you're eating stuff, unless you're eating stuff that you always eat. But even, I don't know, sometimes just the stress of camping and you're moving around a lot, it just turns your stomach, I call it turning your stomach into mud. So anyway, I just want everyone to have safe, happy camping trips. Try not to lose anything. My number one goal is like nobody get hurt, and try not to lose anything. Having everyone do a camping sweep at the end. Anyway, I could talk about this forever. All right, talk to you later.
to come on, but not too soon. I get to be your